Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. The press says that California is experiencing record heat and that climate refugees are moving to Northern California. California shut down all of their coal-fired power plants, and they're also shutting down their nuclear power plants. And not surprisingly, they don't have enough electricity. So 1 week after the California government told the residents they have to drive electric cars, the government is telling the residents not to charge their electric cars. We've heard the propaganda. Now let's look at the science. Santa Barbara, California is on the coast north of Los Angeles, and normally temperatures there are quite cool. But temperatures can get hot there during the summer, particularly during September and October. October is the month when Santa Barbara is most likely to get over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, and September is second most likely. This chart shows all 745 times when Santa Barbara has gotten over 90 degrees Fahrenheit since the 19th century. The hottest day on this chart was June 17, 1917, when Santa Barbara got up to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Their average June temperature is 72 degrees, but prior to the year 1990, temperatures over 100 degrees Fahrenheit were not particularly uncommon. Their hottest temperature in the last 32 years was 96 degrees Fahrenheit, which was almost 20 degrees cooler than their record temperature in 1917. Most of the time, Santa Barbara stays cool because ocean breezes keep the temperature down. But on June 17, 1917, they got up to 115 degrees. This was caused by downslope winds coming off the desert and heating as the air approached Santa Barbara. According to NOAA, Ojai, California got up to 119 degrees during that same heat wave in 1917. Ojai is up in the mountains away from the coast and tends to be much hotter than Santa Barbara. At that time in 1917, the press reported the temperature in Ojai as being 128 degrees and said the region was on fire. And unlike the fake climate refugees of 2022, there were actual refugees in 1917, 150 to 200 of them from the Ojai Valley. I mentioned earlier that October was the month when the California coast was most likely to get hot. And during October 1859, temperatures along the California coast got up to 110 degrees in the shade. This was followed in December by the most remarkable precipitation of rain ever known in the county. It was estimated that 1 foot of water fell within 24 hours. Santa Barbara got up to 115 degrees during June 1917. But during June 1859, they got up to an incredible 133 degrees on June 17th. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the 17th, a burning wind came upon us from the northwest and smote us with terror. At 2 o'clock, the thermometer exposed to this wind rose to 133 degrees Fahrenheit. At 5 o'clock, it had fallen to 122 degrees, and at 7 o'clock, it stood at 77 degrees. A fisherman who was out at sea came back with his arms all blistered. Many calves, rabbits, and birds died of suffocation. The greatest losses are among the vegetables. The fruit trees are all burned. The pears and apples have been literally cooked. That's pretty remarkable considering that the heat lasted for less than 6 hours. Hot temperatures were widespread all along the California coast, and the San Francisco Chronicle said it was the hottest spell ever experienced in the state by Americans down to the present date. In Sacramento, the thermometer for 10 days rarely fell below 100 degrees. At Timbuktu, it got up to 121 degrees. The hottest weather ever known in the state, says the Shasta Courier, has been experienced during the past week. In some places in brick buildings, the mercury rose to 118 degrees. People avoided the wind because it was so heated that it felt like it was actually burning the flesh. At the risk of being redundant, I'm going to read through another description from the book California of the South. The temperature during the morning was between 75 and 80 degrees, and gradually and regularly increased until about 1 o'clock p.m. when a blast of hot air from the northwest swept suddenly over the town and struck the inhabitants with terror. It was quickly followed by others. At 2 o'clock, the thermometer exposed to the air rose to 133 degrees and continued at or near that point for nearly 3 hours. No human being could withstand the heat. Everyone went to their houses and closed every door and window. The thick adobe walls would have required days to have become warmed and were consequently an admirable protection. Calves, rabbits, birds, etc. were killed, trees were blighted, fruit was blasted and fell to the ground, burned only on one side. So what caused the record heat of 1859? These stories provide a rather large hint about what was going on. In early September 1859 was the largest solar storm ever recorded. Auroras were seen all the way into the tropics. All telegraph lines were shut down because there was too much electricity passing through the wires. On September 1st, as John Carrington was sketching the sunspots, he was blinded by a sudden flash of light. Carrington described it as a white light flare, and the event lasted for about 5 minutes. The same week in 1859, when Santa Barbara, California got up to 133 degrees, there were great floods on the upper Mississippi River. And a few weeks earlier, there was disastrous flooding on the Ohio River. In October 1859, California was having record heat, but they were having different problems on the other side of the Atlantic. A storm off the coast of Wales damaged 530 vessels and destroyed 96, with about 600 people dead. California was much hotter in 1859 than it is this summer, despite the fact that carbon dioxide levels were much lower. The extreme weather of 1859 was most likely caused by the sun, so forcing people to drive electric vehicles probably wouldn't have made a lot of difference. Just like it won't make any difference to the weather now or in the future. The bad policy of the California government hurts everybody and accomplishes absolutely nothing. 133 degrees on June 17, 1859 was extremely hot, but that record was beaten on July 10, 1913, when Death Valley got up to 134 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the world's record temperature. Death Valley actually got over 130 degrees on 3 different days that week. The California government has no shortage of propaganda and bad policy, but it appears they don't know much about their state's history. Forcing people in California to drive electric vehicles, which the government's not allowing them to recharge anyway, will not have any impact on the weather because hot weather is not caused by the type of vehicles which people are driving. During saner times, people recognized that the sun had a huge impact on Earth's climate. Toto has been pulling back the curtain on climate superstition for the past 14 years. You can visit him, Kyrie Caesar, Toki, and Upala on the web at realclimatescience.com.